on the Vince Everett Ellison Show. Yeah, we're going to talk about the release of the King Files. Yeah, you know I've been talking about that for a very, very long time. Now we're getting ready to light that candle. So we're going to talk about the release of the King Files and its implications today on the Vince Everett Ellison Show. All right, let's get this thing started. Yeah, it's some nervous Negroes out there right now. They finally talk about releasing the King Files like 2 years early. Donald Trump signed the order, and it's getting ready to go down now. So let me tell you what's going on. You got two camps out there. You got kind of like the Vince Everett Ellison camp that says, now we about to see. I told you this joker was no good. I told you, I told you, I told you, I told you, I told you. And you got the other camp that says, we're preparing you to find out that he's no good. And even if he is no good, we still want to celebrate him. It's like both camps agree the king's no good. One camp agree that he's no good and he should be ostracized. The other camp says, yeah, he's no good, but we still should celebrate him. Yeah, the other camp says, he might be a rapist, and he might be a dope fiend, and he might be a pervert. He might be a communist, but that don't matter because we got to protect King's legacy. And so I sat back and I asked the question. His legacy? Yeah, his legacy. Yeah, what legacy? And I would say, and I'll see people on like YouTube talking about protect King's legacy. They're going to try to destroy Martin Luther King's legacy, destroy his legacy. And when and nobody ever want to say what that legacy is. I mean, what? All of this, we got to want to live in brotherhood and all that kind of stuff. Everybody say that. I remember seeing that Coca-Cola commercial. We want to buy the world of Coke and teach it harmony, you know? That's the real thing. Everybody talks about that. King wasn't the first young to talk about living in harmony, living in brotherhood. Jesus Christ talked about it 2,000 years before, and Socrates, Plato, everybody talked about it. So when they say we got to protect Dr. King's legacy, I always ask the question, what legacy is that? George Washington got a legacy. Dude fought in the wilderness for 7 years against the British. Man, and we still live in George Washington's legacy right now. What was it? America. If George Washington had not done what he had done, America would not exist. Now, that is a hellified legacy, isn't it? Abraham Lincoln. Dude got a legacy. America was split. The Confederate States of America said that we are going to not just have the South, but we're going to go all the way down into Mexico, South America. We're going to take all of that. We're going to have a slave empire. Abraham Lincoln said, no, I don't think so. And when everybody was telling him, just let them go, let them go, let them go, Lincoln said, no, they're not going to divide the Union. He saved the United States of America. We're living that legacy today. That's the legacy. I mean, I'm here in Western Virginia. Jerry Falwell left this beautiful university up here. He left Liberty University. He left the Thomas Road Baptist Church that's still growing, beautiful, large church. Liberty is growing. That's a legacy. Now, they talk about Martin Luther King's legacy. I said, I mean, what? I mean, I'm not trying to be funny. What? Black communities at the lowest that it's ever been. That is the only thing that now, you got two things you can do with King. You can either say that he failed at everything he tried to do because black people at the bottom of every socioeconomic statistic in the industrialized world, or you can say he succeeded in everything he tried to do because blacks are at the bottom of every socioeconomic statistic in America. And now they belong to the Democratic Party, and the same party they've always belonged to, a party of perverts, liars, psychopaths, and anti-Christian bigots, thugs, hoes, and rappers. He succeeded in keeping us there. Now, he celebrated for something, and I don't think he'll usually celebrate it for failure. I can't think about a dude that celebrated for failure. Let me think. How many coaches you know celebrated for having 0-11 seasons in football? I can't think of one. How many politicians you can think of celebrate for losing every election? I can't think of one. How many CEOs you know are celebrating for bankrupting every company they ever had? I can't think of one. So King can't be celebrated for these failures, y'all. Not for failure. He's got to be celebrated for success. So what he did to the black community in the eyes of these people was successful. Destroying the black family. Putting 5 times more black men in the penitentiary. Destroying the black economy. The only thing he did well was 2 things. Held us vote for the Democratic Party and put a bunch of black Marxists in the Congress. That's why he celebrated. And bringing atheism and Marxism and taking the black church and making it apostate. That's why he celebrated. So, when you look at the King files, you know, I've been on King kind of hard past 2-3 weeks. I think y'all have seen it. And I've done that for 2 reasons. Number one, his birthday is January 15th. But then you got Black History Month coming up. Black History Month. Well, Black History Month will be tomorrow. Oh, boy, what a waste of time. I feel sorry for white folks in Black History Month. They got to sit back and listen to all that ignorant stuff for like, at least it's a short month. You got to sit back and listen to all of this heeing and hawing and lying. Black History Month is just a bunch of lies, man. Just a month of just jokers just telling flat out lies. The whole month, just a bunch of lies. You look at it and say, boy, I tell you what. How do you survive in America with Black History Month? Black folks oppressed. White folks low down. America hates black people. Black people have nothing to do with their past. Everything that was done to them, they was victimized and oppressed. That's a bunch of freaking lies, man. I won't be celebrating it. You can guarantee you that. But I'm going to have fun because starting tomorrow, it's going to be Black History Month. And, bruh, I'm going to be giving you some black history. You better believe that, okay? So hold on to it. This is the beginning. This is preliminary to it. So Martin Luther King Jr., right? All I'm talking about is legacy. Dr. King's legacy. Dr. King's legacy. Dr. King's legacy. I'm like, can you help me out with that, bruh? I mean, what, a legacy of hoe chasing? Legacy of being a pervert? I mean, he did some marching now. You know, I believe that if they had guaranteed Martin Luther King Jr. an unlimited amount of liquor and hoes, he'd have marched from New York City all the way to L.A. nonstop. That's all he needs. He don't need no money. He would have survived on liquor and hoes 3,000 miles. That's a shame. But that's how I reprobate these dudes for. And you look at him talking about his legacy. What? I'm serious, y'all. America is as segregated as it has ever been. These big cities are segregated. When you go into Memphis, Chicago, LA, this joke is segregated as hell. Rich folks stay behind gated communities, and mostly white people got money, and a few black folks got some money, not a lot of them. But the ones that got money live in gated communities, man. They're segregated. Public education system segregated. Black folks still at the bottom, and when it comes down to income, home ownership, going to jail, fighting, dope. What the hell are you celebrating, dude? You know what they're celebrating? Those very facts. Keep the niggers in line. It's like what old Cotton Ed Smith said in South Carolina. Keep the cost of cotton up and keep the N-word down. Cotton Ed was a Democrat, stayed senator in South Carolina for like 40 years between 1900 and 1950. That's a dirty old joker, man. Had a cotton plantation. Keep the cost of cotton up, keep the N-word down. He put it, when he was running for office, he'd take a big old sign and put it on a cotton wagon and just ride through ride through all the South Carolina. That was his motto. And that's what the Democrats are doing right now. Keep the N-word down. And King helped them do it. So, okay. So King's legacy. They getting us prepared right now, y'all. I saw ugly Roland Martin look like a Furby. No neck Roland Martin. Oh, they mad. They releasing the King files to discredit Martin Luther King Jr. and have the statues and have the streets and have all the things. They want to destroy Dr. King's legacy. Well, he ain't done nothing. What you worried about? I don't believe nothing the FBI say. I don't believe none of those files. I don't believe none of the tapes. I don't believe anything. I think it's all doctored. So they've been filed. They've been sealed for 50 years, and you think somebody rolled up in there and doctored them some type of way? Man, y'all ought to be ashamed of yourself, gaslighting folks like that. If Martin Luther King Jr. is a rapist, and if Martin Luther King Jr. is a communist, like they say he is, you ain't supposed to try to gaslight people and say that's okay. I mean, rape was wrong then, rape is wrong now. Being a communist was wrong then, being a communist is wrong now. And the thing was, it was bad enough he was a communist. The baddest thing was he lied about it. I mean, hell, George Washington was a slave owner, but at least everybody knew it. He didn't lie about it. You know, all the things the founding fathers did, they did. We all know about it. But see, this is the problem with black people right now. They always try to sanitize their history. And when you sanitize your history, you can never, ever fix your future because you're lying about your past. That's what happened to the Romans and the Greeks. They started mythologizing their history, lying about coming from gods and all this other kind of ignorant stuff, and Remus and Ramus and how they were, suckled by wolves, and that's how two brothers, that was where Rome came from. Just lying about their history. And Rome failed because it was based on a foundation of lies. The black community is not moving because we're based on a foundation of lies too. History tells us that we had no control over any aspect of our lives. That means you're an animal and you're a beast. This is why this is so important. We have to tell the truth about what happened in the past. Yes, slavery is a choice. You could have killed your slave master anytime you wanted to. Hell, they was even confused about it. They went to the Civil War and just left all the black slaves on the plantation knowing that they weren't going to do a debt gun thing. They knew it. They wasn't concerned about slave revolt. And during the Civil War, when you and Joker should have been revolting, right? I can't remember any real slave revolt in the whole South. The slaves were freed without their consent, without their knowledge, or without their participation. Union troops came down and went to the cotton field and said, "You black people are free." And they said, "What? You're free." They said, "Why? We lack it here. We didn't ask to be freed." That's why most of them stayed on the plantation. There's no slave revolts. There was no slaves running away. There was no big wave of slaves leaving the plantations running up south, running up north to be free. You had some, a few, but on the main, no. So when they told the slaves they were free, slaves said, "Why?" Free without their knowledge, without their consent, or without their participation. History book ain't gonna tell you that. They're gonna tell you every slave wanted to be free. Every last one of them. I can guarantee you that if they had done a poll, Rasmussen poll, on the plantations of the South, back before 1860, and a number of slaves, how many of you slaves want to be free? I bet you 91% of them would have said, "No, man, that's okay. We'll stay down here on the plantation." Never asked them. Never was part of the equation. They just freed them. And this is why they're still on the plantation, even to this day. We got to talk about that, y'all. But we want to sanitize our history and say we had nothing to do with it. It was just, we had no control over it. The white man controlled everything. This is why I talk about Martin Luther King Jr. is so important. So, the files are going to say King was a communist. Gus Hall, who was the head of the Communist Party in America, knew King was a communist. Stanley Levinson and Gus Hall communicated all the time about King. Stanley told Gus, hell, he's a communist from the top of his head to the bottom of his feet. Yeah. We have this lady, Julia Brown. Julia Brown's interesting. See the book called I'll Testify. It's hard to find because they don't want you to read it. But I've written about Miss Julia Brown in my book, The End of Tolerance. I'm going to read to you what I wrote about what Julia Brown said. That's what I wrote. Since the writing of my last book, Crime, Inc., I have discovered and become acquainted with the life of, and writings of Miss Julia Brown. In her book, I Testify, my years as an FBI undercover agent. Julia Brown, a black woman, records her testimony before the House Committee on Un-American Activities in Washington, D.C. on June 4th, 1962. Her testimony recorded how she was a disaffected member of the Communist Party, turned double agent and infiltrated the civil rights community as an undercover FBI agent. She then discovered how the communists were using the civil rights movement and black disenchantment to subvert the government of the United States.
For 9 years, I was a member of the Communist Party, serving as an undercover agent for the FBI. During that time, I learned that the communist conspiracy had been planning and working for years to bring violent revolution to America. It was to be a communist revolution, but the great majority of the American people would not be allowed to realize that until it had already happened. If all goes according to the communist blueprint, Americans will believe that the chaos and violence has something to do with civil rights. Our enemies were quick to find our weakest point for their attack. They knew that racial differences could provide them with an excellent wedge to divide our people. Their strategy simply has been to keep hammering on that wedge, to drive it deeper into our social structure, to open all wounds that have long since healed, and deliberately to create new ones wherever they can. Now, this doesn't mean that there isn't a legitimate need for the advancement of civil rights for many of our Negro citizens. Of course, there is a need there. Otherwise, communist agitators posing as civil rights leaders could never hope to enlist massive support for their schemes. The aspirations of Negroes for full equality were not created by communists, but they are used by communists in such a way that idealistic Americans of all races can be tricked into implementing the communist blueprint for revolution. Having been on the inside of the Communist Party, it's easy for me to recognize this revolutionary agitation in disguise. But the average American finds it's hard to believe that something as worthy and noble sounding as a civil rights movement could possibly be a communist maneuver.
More than anything, she discovered that the support for Martin Luther King Jr. and the civil rights movement came from communist enemies here in America and in Moscow, Russia. Later in her life, trying to stave off the communist propaganda machine, placing sainthood on King after his death, Ms. Brown produced a pamphlet. In her pamphlet entitled, "Please Don't Help Glorify Martin Luther King," Julia Brown records what she learned about King. Through undercover activities, she confirmed all of my suspicions about King. Here are the highlights. So this woman is an undercover FBI agent for the CIA. For the FBI in the Communist Party. You know, they always would tell you that the FBI didn't have any black agents, right? Yeah. Tell that to Miss Julia Brown. This is what Julia Brown says. Miss Julia Brown spent 9 years as a member of the Communist Party. She says, Mr. J. Edgar Hoover, the director of the FBI, once called Martin Luther King Jr. the most notorious liar in the country. She says, I agree with him. But I also believe that MLK was one of the worst enemies my people ever had. Listen now. She said, but I also believe that MLK was one of the worst enemies my people ever had. I learned many surprising things while serving in the Communist Party for the FBI. Communist leaders told us about the demonstrations that would be started and the protest marches. The demand would be made for massive federal intervention. Every communist was ordered to help convince American Negroes that we are no better than slaves. We were also told to promote MLK, to unite Negroes and whites behind him and to turn him into some sort of national hero. And she said, most of the people the communists counted on to further their work were not official members of the Communist Party. But I am certain, as I can be, that he, MLK, knew what he was doing. And I am just as certain that the drive to glorify him is just as much a communist project as anything else.
Well, I say it is frightening, and it should be frightened to the entire American people that he has demanded $10 billion. And if he doesn't get it, then there may be riots this summer. Martin Luther King is nothing but a blackmailer, and he should be arrested for blackmailing because he certainly has blackmailed the United States government.
There's one thing that bothers me, and that, as a Negro yourself, why do you talk so bitterly against Martin Luther King and a lot of these other people of your race?
Well, let me tell you something. I don't put my race before I do my country. Being a Negro woman doesn't matter to me who is a Negro or who is a white person. If they are enemies of our country, then they are certainly my enemies too.
And now, at least for a time, we must suffer the frustration of a national holiday named in honor of a man who was a liar, a traitor, a tool of communism, and a man about whom secrets must be sealed in a vault for 50 years. To keep the truth about him being fully known, Martin Luther King said he had a dream. A real American who had the kind of dream he had would call it a nightmare. Today, one of King's lieutenants is on the loose, Jesse Jackson.
Now, the plot to glorify him. Well, that plot worked very, very well. Very, very well. I mean, they glorified, you can't talk about Jesus Christ in school, but you can show enough talk about Martin Luther King Jr. You can't talk about the Bible, but you can show enough talk about his I Have a Dream speech, his letter from the Birmingham jail. You can't talk about the trek of Christianity from Christ to now, but you can sure enough talk about the Civil Rights Trail and the Civil Rights Museums and all that kind of stuff. Oh, you can talk about all that to our children. Yeah. Indoctrination. All a lie. A movement led by a bunch of perverts and liars and hypocrites and anti-Christian bigots. And let me prove it. People say, what's wrong with being a communist? See, you young people now don't understand communism like we understood it growing up during the Cold War. We knew that the communists had thousands of nuclear weapons pointed at us every day. press of a button, we're all dead. So we had this thing called mutually assured destruction, MAD, where if they shot theirs, we shot ours, and we destroy each other's countries. Just like that. And we lived under that fear as children until Ronald Reagan broke them. And the Berlin Wall came down in 1990. But the communists had goals, and they weren't finished. So they weren't finished after the Berlin Wall fell. They just morphed into something else. You know, just like Voldemort in Harry Potter, he always just goes into something else. Well, that's what these jokers did. So instead of being the communists, they just went to the Democratic Party. All the members of the Communist Party just went into the Democratic Party here in America. And they said, we're going to turn this party into the Communist Party. Now, on January 10th, 1963, the Honorable Albert Sidney Herlong, Jr., he's a congressman from the state of Florida, read into the Congressional Record 45 communist goals from his book, The Naked Communist. 45 communist goals. This was 1963. This is a congressman from Florida. He stood up before the Congress and read this into the Congressional Record. 45 communist goals. When I read these goals to you, you're going to say, my God, that's the Democratic Party. Are you listening? Are you ready? Here I go. Now, I'm not going to deal too much with the first 15. There's a bunch of housekeeping. They're talking about recognizing red, China, and all that kind of stuff, which we did. But the real stuff comes about number 16. Number 16, using technical decisions of courts to weaken basic American institutions, like marriage, get control of the schools, use them as a transmission belt for socialism and current communist propaganda, soften the curriculum, get control of the teachers' associations, and put the party line in textbooks. They've done that. Gain control of all student newspapers. They've done that. Use student riots to foment public protests against programs or organizations that are under communist attack. Infiltrate the press. Oh, they've done that. Gain control of key positions in radio, TV, and motion pictures. They've definitely done that. Continue discrediting American culture by degrading all forms of artistic expression. An American communist cell was told to eliminate all good sculpture in parks and buildings substitute shapeless, awkward, and meaningless forms. So now that's where all that modern art comes from, and all the beautiful art is gone, and you see these BLM idiots tearing down all the statues, and we're looking at all these stupid forms. You remember like that stupid dude that bought all that money for the banana that was taped to the wall? Yeah, stupid, ignorant mess like that. You look at it and say, what? Yeah, that's what they're pressing in America. And these stupid liberals in the press and the Democrats are buying it. Control art critics and directors of art museums. Our plan is to promote ugliness, repulsive, meaningless forms. Oh, sound like hip-hop music to me. Glorilla, Cardi B, Snoop, tats all over your face, tats all over, just ugly forms. Eliminate all laws governing obscenity by calling them censorship and a violation of free speech. So, they put pornography in the school libraries, and what did they call it? You're banning books. Then when they pulled out the Bible, they didn't say you were banning books, did they? When you pulled out the porn, you're banning books. You can't turn on TV without seeing somebody getting down. You have to turn your children's eyes. I said, we can't watch TV no more, man. You got to. Thank God there's some things on the internet now. You can go and you can watch the Beverly Hillbillies and stuff like that. Go back to black and white. Number 25 is break down all cultural standards of morality by promoting pornography and obscenity in books, magazines, motion pictures, radio, and TV. Lord have mercy. Break down all cultural standards of morality. LGBTQ, Rainbow Mafia, doing a parade down Main Street in booty shorts and leather, twerking with thongs on. Yeah! Getting down Got Jesus on the cross upside down and got a nun and a priest dancing around him. That's what they do. And we allow it. Oh, this is a real good one. Check this out. Number 26. Present homosexuality, degeneracy, and promiscuity as normal, natural, and healthy. Is that not the Democrat Party on steroids? Present homosexuality, degeneracy, and promiscuity as normal, natural, and healthy. This was read into the congressional record in 1963, the year I was born. And folks were saying, no way, that's going to never happen in America. Started laughing at the dude when he read it. Man, you must be crazy. That'll never happen. Infiltrate the churches. Number 27. Infiltrate the churches and replace revealed religion with social religion. The social gospel. Social justice. That's what King preached, y'all. The social gospel. Social justice, that's what they all talk about. Discredit the Bible and emphasize the need for intellectual maturity, which does not need a religious crutch. Number 28, eliminate prayer when any phase of religious expression in schools on the grounds that it violates the principles of separation of church and state. This is the communists saying this. It's number 28, and the Democrats did it. Discredit the American Constitution by calling it inadequate. Discredit the American founding fathers. Belittle all forms of American culture and discourage the teachings of American history. Support any socialist movement. Infiltrate and gain control of more unions. Infiltrate and gain control of big business. Transfer some of the powers of arrest from the police to social agencies. You remember when BLM came out with that? We don't want the police to go out. We want social workers to go out. You remember that? You see where it comes from now, right? Communist goals. Treat all behavioral problems as psychiatric disorders. Yeah. Which no one but psychiatrists can understand or treat. BLM. Dominate the psychiatric profession and use mental health laws as a means of gaining coercive control over those who oppose communist goals. Oh, and this is number 40. This is real good right here. Oh, this is them all the way right here. Discredit the family as an institution, encourage promiscuity and divorce. Ha! Boy, that's the Democrat Party. Number 41, emphasize the need to raise children away from the negative influence of parents. Ain't that the public education system now? We got to take the children from the parents because the parents might not want them to transition or become transgender, so we don't want the parents to have any influence over them. Number 42, this is the last one, y'all. Create the impression that violence and insurrection are legitimate aspects of American tradition, that students and special interest groups should rise up and use united force to solve economic and political and social problems. Wow. Wow. The BLM riots. And I thought that was the last one, but here is something that is happening right here, right now. It's a small thing, but this is how Donald Trump understands who these people are. Check this out, number 44. Internationalize the Panama Canal. They did that back in the 70s, and you know what Trump said? We're going to take it back. We're going to take it back. So all of this stuff I just read you the Democratic Party is doing, we're going to take it back. All of it. So when you want to understand why King was such a problem, because he started all of it. All of it. And now America's had enough. We've had a tipping point. So these King files are coming out. They're going to show the man was a communist. They're going to show the man was a pervert. They're going to show the man was an anti-Christian bigot. And then you're going to see the left go say, they're trying to destroy Dr. King's legacy. Don't believe nothing the FBI is saying. Don't believe nothing they're saying now. Don't believe anything. They were saying that when the FBI took out the Ku Klux Klan. Yeah, FBI took out the Klan. They didn't say that when FBI was catching spies and terrorists that was blowing up and killing people here in America. They didn't say that when they was catching Bonnie and Clyde and Pretty Boy Floyd and John Dillinger and all the rest of them. Yeah, they weren't saying that then. But now, because J. Edgar Hoover saw Martin Luther King Jr., and Martin Luther King Jr. and everybody else had held him up as a paradigm of virtue and that this is going to be the leader of Black America and this is a great young man. And Hoover says, all right then, young man, let's see if we can protect you. Come to find out that he's hanging out with communists. When they started wiretapping them to see how dangerous he was, come to find out that he was a pervert and a liar and an anti-Christian bigot. And then people are going to say, well, Hoover was racist and Hoover didn't like Martin Luther King Jr. Hell, why should he like him? Why should he like him? He's in wiretaps of the man having orgies with 20 people and raping women involved in homosexual activity, buying prostitutes. And you're going to say that J. Edgar Hoover was supposed to like him? And then he was looking at Roy Wilkins, who was, he said, a man of virtue. Farmer, man of core, man of virtue. Whitney Young, another man of virtue. And then he looks over here at King, and King is just acting like he's freaking crazy. And Hoover's supposed to say, well, you know, I still like him, man. No, he looked at King with utter disgust. And if any man, if he was a man of honor himself and virtue, hell, he would have looked at him that way. And so now the left is trying to justify it. Well, you know, everybody got their weaknesses. Trying to justify it. Trying to justify a rapist. It is necessary for America and the Black America to go back into the past of our history and stop sanitizing this part of it and start telling the truth about it. If not, we cannot go forward. We have to know that most of this was us participating in our own oppression. We were not victims. Most of the time, we were participants. And it's time out for this cult of personality. And us laying down at the feet of this bunch of horrible individuals. And understand that they are not our heroes. They're the ones that put their feet on our necks. And when we determine that, and we remove their anti-Christian, anti-capitalist, anti-American teachings from our books and from our schools and from our nation, you'll see America and Black America rise. But as long as we keep teaching this lie, you're black, you're poor, you're ugly, you can't make it, your nation hates you, the only way you can get something is through DEI and handouts, we'll never have a freaking thing. So y'all get ready for the files. I'm sitting here, I'm real ready for them, and I'm going to give you some information real quick. They said that I'm reading this from CBS, is that Mr. Trump is ordering the Director of National Intelligence and Attorney General to come up with a plan in 45 days to release all the RFK and MLK files. They will have just 15 days to propose a plan within 15 days to release the JFK files, though the president's nominees for both these roles have not yet been confirmed by the Senate. So, Mr. Trump is ordering the Director of the National Intelligence and Attorney General to come up with a plan within 45 days. 45 days to release all RFK and MLK files. So in 45 days, we will have a plan to release them. And this came out about a week ago. So, hold on to your hats. To the left, excuse me, and the Democrats, hold on to your bras and panties, man. This is going to be fun. And when they come out, I'm going to be here to wake you up. Hope I did you some good today. So join me tomorrow for another Vince Everett Ellison show. All right, friends, Vince Everett Ellison is here. I want you to go to my website, and on my website, you're gonna see a lot of great stuff, man. You're gonna see that we got t-shirts, we got caps, you got my books, my documentaries, you got all kinds of stuff on VinceSpeaksTruth.com. Go there. We're dropping new t-shirts, we're dropping new merchandise. My new book, The End of Tolerance, is there. The End of Tolerance. Make sure you get it, make it #1. If you got my first 3, get The End of Tolerance. It's just as good, and it's telling us we have to end our tolerance with these leftists, these Democrats. We can no longer allow them to sexually groom our children. We can no longer allow them to castrate little boys and call them little girls, run God out of the public square, take away our guns, take away our sovereignty. No longer allow it. So go on VinceSpeaksTruth.com. That is VinceSpeaksTruth.com. Hit merchandise. You'll see the t-shirts. You'll see the caps. You'll see the books. You'll see the documentaries. You'll see it all. And let's keep this ball rolling. God bless you.